No, you can. Actually, it spans the length of the
Oh,
table.
okay. So in my little cube here, I guess.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm not having to. These are just a couple of my notes. Oop, I'm throwing papers all over. Right. Well, to start off, I was just gonna say I'm Angie Kennedy, and I know Allison because she works at the ice rink, and I have men's and women's hockey at St. Olaf, so that's how I know Allison and how she had thought of me. I've been an athletic trainer for, well, certified since '98. So, and I've been in Northfield for 9 years, and at St. Olaf for 8 of those 9. So, I'm established at St. Olaf, pretty good. And I cover football in the fall, and then men's and women's hockey in the winter, and then outdoor track, men's and women's. So those are my responsibilities that I have there. So that's kind of a little bit about my background. And so Allison called me, and she was just saying that you guys are training for a 5K. Is everybody here running that? Planning on? And is it here in town?
Yes.
At Thanksgiving? Is it like a turkey? Okay, yep. I do the one in Hastings. I try to get the 8K in Hastings done, but we'll have to see. But yeah, those are fun. I feel much better about eating all the turkey later. So again, and I told Allison that I do apologize for not being a fancy PowerPoint or anything, but I just thought with some of the random problems and things like that, I thought we'd do more hands-on and kind of just an open discussion. I think we'll get more out of it, so that's why I decided to do that. So, and we kind of touched base on some things already. Knee pain is very common, and of course that could be a wide variety of things, and we've touched base on some of them, from the angles of our hips to our muscle imbalance to the flexibility, to just footwear to terrain and all kinds of things. I think the most common for women is that classic runner's knee, which is that IT band that's on the side of your hips here, or the classic patellar tendonitis, which is, your patellas from your kneecap down. And again, both of those are quad strength and flexibility related. We have a tendency to have the wider hips, and because of the estrogen that we have, that does make our hips more mobile than males, and so that always plays a factor. And it's very easy and it's very common for individuals to just get a little rotation or a little lift on one side or the other of your hips. And if that settles for a while, your muscles that attach those hips, they just don't know. They're like, why am I working, 20% more than the other side this week? I mean, what's going on? And then they'll kind of start to tighten and give you a little ache and a little pain, but yet the left side, still is not wanting to carry its load because it's not in its neutral form, and then it just gets tighter and tighter until, it's so pulled out of whack that, we have significant pain. We have to go in and be adjusted and things. So I always tell my athletes, I go, the muscles can be very picky, and they can be stubborn. They really can. If they decide that they don't want to do something, they'll lock up and they'll not let you do it, and can really be kind of a pain. Or as I tell them that, in my opinion, I think all of our muscles and our tendons all have attitude problems at some point in time. They decide to just get mad, and then they can't let go, and it makes you so mad. But so we're always adjusting our attitudes in the training room, because they're just being kind of a pain in the butt. But so I handed out some of these all these stretches and stuff, and because again I had asked Allison kind of what were some of the key topics. Again, that runner's knee is one, and I liked this book when I had purchased it. Because of the pictures. It kind of gives you the common sites and location where a person will typically have the most pain, but then it also shows where it can kind of it can target and go down the leg, or it can go to different locations, and then I like the visuals of the muscles that we need to stretch, which are these little boxes here. And I did, the other sheets in that packet are kind of targeting that piriformis stretch, because I don't think a lot of people know or do that stretch very well. And then the glute medius and minimus, we all know a basic quad stretch, but we were going to go through some of these as well, because these are those stretches that we forget about, and nobody wants to do those, and they are the muscles that get tight. Specifically that glute medius and minimus. So the glutes are your butt muscles, and the maximus, of course, is the maximus that we see and we all have. The medius and minimus are the layers that go in towards the hip, and then you have your deep rotators, and those are such strong stabilizers. And when you think about anytime you're standing on your feet, those muscles, those stabilizers in your glute medius and minimus are constantly working as stabilizers. And then when you add an activity on top of it, now they're having to work overtime and do that. So we stretch our quad because it's visible and we can see it, but those muscles, we should technically be stretching them more so than our hamstrings and our quads, but we don't think about them because we don't see them. We don't know kind of what they're doing. So I would say probably 80% of all of the hip rotation, back problems, IT-band, to tightness, to sciatica, are all because of a piriformis and a glute medius minimus stretching issue, which very easy to fix if we just pay attention to them. So I kind of like, and it shows you where they attach and stuff, so you have that visual. The other one was your low back pain, which again is a lot of times hip related, especially if you know that you don't have like the stenosis or a disc bulge and things like that. But at the same time, you can get those because the weak core and the hip rotation can all cause that over time. But I liked this one as well because, again, you can see even though low back pain, it was the main complaint, an accessory to that is having a pain along the front of the hip. And again, when our hips come together, the two bones, there's a cartilage piece that does allow our hips to move. Well, we can get stuck. And if we don't have that natural movement, when we want to stride out in our run or even just our walk, we get that pain that kind of radiates to the front. And again, so that's just the hips not working together as one unit properly. So we forget to stretch that as well. So what I was thinking is, those were kind of the general things that I had, and I know that we kind of touched base on some things, but I thought we would kind of individually maybe discuss the complaint that is affecting you in your training right now and just kind of talk through it and give some suggestions and some ideas and kind of go from there. And then if you guys have questions, then we can get that as well. So, who wants to be first?
I can go first.
Okay.
So this started from like day one when we started doing this training. It is like I don't know what this is right here. Like tightens and then does not let go. And it's worse when we started with like the walk run.
Yep.
And it was worse when I was walking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's like my foot just started like smacking the ground.
Yeah, because you can get your toes to raise up anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like I was almost dragging. Like,
it's funny you say that because that's kind of me to a T as well, in that I absolutely hate running, but I prefer to run over a fast walk.
Yes.
Because my shins will be on fire after a minute into that walk. And it doesn't matter if I'm outside or I'm on a track or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so the good news is that that's you, yay! You know, that's just your mechanics and stuff. So it's really not going to go away. So that's, you know, but there are things to help it along. The shoe you wear, I'd be willing to bet that you are also a pronator. You're gonna be a hard heel strike, and then you're gonna really roll into your big toe. Have you ever noticed on the bottom of your shoes, you wear out the back of your heel first, and then where your big toe is? You noticed that? I should have brought my shoes. Is what I should
Oh, I
have.
should have brought my old pair. I just went and got new shoes, thinking that was the problem.
Because instead of being
But that heel hitting is
like, yeah,
just
that's and then of course when we do that we hit and that just reverberates back up. You know, we don't have that soft midfoot strike. We strike hard on our heels, and then because of that, we roll in more so. So you are probably like me in that I have decent arches. You know, I'm not a flat, you know, just walking on planks. I have my arch, but it's my mechanics. It's my hips to my, which we call that the Q angle. When we measure from the hips, we go straight down, and then we measure from inside to the middle of the knee, and then you gauge what that angle is. And if it's over that 8 to 10, you have a higher Q angle, which you're going to have those shin splints and then those medial knee pains and stuff like that, and probably like some kneecap tracking issues. If you're kind of at that 8 and under, which again is rare for women because we're going to have the wider hips, you know, you don't have that problem as much. But and then as that comes down, we compensate at our knees, you know, and then we strike our heels differently. So for you, it's not so much changing your running style or technique, but it's just maybe being a little bit more aware of not having that hard heel strike, trying to stay more on your toes, which will be hard for you for a while because as you're going to go on your toes more, then your calf muscles are going to tighten. Because now they're going to take on the load, and they're really going to be going, what in the world are you doing? Why are you making me do all of this extra work? That will get better with stretching and just massaging. Because again, it's you're imbalanced. You're wanting to heel strike, so that anterior tibialis is that muscle that brings our toes up. You're overworking that, and you're not working this at an equal rate.
Okay.
So you're going to have to transition to work this more, this less. But this is going to get pissed.
Right.
You know, so I don't know, can I say that? This one's going to get really bad, and this one's going to be like, yay, woo, this is great. And until they accept that, yeah, it's going to be a little bit hard.
And I think I have very flat feet, and so I think I tend to run on the outside of my feet. Okay.
But
the other sucks.
the other thing is though too is that it's going to stem from your hips as well. And I would be willing to bet that all of us here getting that TheraBand and doing the lateral steps is key, because our rotators aren't going to be strong, and so this is going to be weak, so we're going to pull forward, so we're going to kind of round this way, and that's going to pull us in more, so then we're going to have to compensate out, and then we're going to roll in. So it's just like, it's just this chain reaction. But again, for women, it's hip external rotators are weak. We're not balanced in our quad, and more specifically, we're very outbalanced between strength of our quads and strength of our hamstrings. Because if our quads are strong, but our hamstrings are weak, we're going to roll forward. If our hamstrings are stronger and our quads are weak, we're going to roll back. So there needs to be that balance. And your quads have to be balanced from lateral to medial, so you're not tracking, it's a game of balances. So with that, you gotta credit Jane Fonda, because her side leg lifts, it's exactly what we need to do. And we can do all this other stuff, and all we need to do is to Jane Fonda's, get physical, Is all we need to do. It's like, she knew it. She knew way back then. Why we just don't have her DVDs, I don't know. Or her VHS tapes or whatever they were. You know, but yeah, the side leg lifts, I like, I don't know if the camera will go down here, but I don't want to get on the table, but I call these clams. You're going to keep your hips square, okay? And you keep your heels together, and you open up as far as you can and back down. So you don't want to do this, because see how then you roll your hip out? So you're using your back versus just your external rotators. You want to go as far as your external rotators can and back down. And then you tie that TheraBand around your knees to give yourself resistance.
What is
As-
this band thing?
Those stretchy rubber bands, like
Oh,
your therapist, and I mean you can get those at Target and stuff.
okay.
But or the tubes, the TheraTubing, it doesn't matter. You just tie it around and you just open up. Your side leg lifts. A lot of us want to either keep rolling forward so we don't fall or go back. So I like to put my hand in the small of my back to keep myself square. And again, you don't have to be the Pilates expert and get way up here. You know, you're still going to get something out of this. You know, the other key important one is you're keeping your hips square. You roll your toes towards the ceiling, so you externally rotate and you come up. So instead of this, you're doing this, but the hips are staying the same. So again,
And
that's
working all that outside.
Yep. and that's good. That's working that IT band. Okay, that comes here because that IT band, which is the runner's knee, the muscle is up here at your hip, but it becomes right when you roll your hip out. You can feel your bony part here, and from that point on, all the way until it crosses the knee, it's a tendon, and that gets tight. So for runner's knee, you can either get the snapping at the knee where the tendon is tight, or you can get the snapping up at the hip. It's the same treatment. You need to loosen this up, but that's where that is. The VMO, which was one of the other ones, that's your, probably should have worn shorts today too. When you tighten up your quad, you know, you get, this is your main muscle. That VMO is a little section right here. And we have a tendency to be weak on the VMO, which is going to be the tracking, because if this is weak, we're usually strong on the outside. That vastus lateralis is the name of that quad muscle, so it's going to track this way. So your kneecap's going to feel like it's just constantly being pulled.
Yeah.
VMO muscles, it's the last 8 to 10 degrees of extension. So whether it's just doing straight leg raises, again, I like to use the TheraBand, and I like to I balance on my knee, and then I'm just pushing back until, you know, the TheraBand's coming around here. I have it attached to a door, and I'm just pushing back, but I'm just making sure that I see that contract, and then relax back down.
So it's not a very big movement there.
No, it's not. The what is holding? The other one is just doing flutter kicks. You keep your knees together, and you're just going, again, the last few degrees of extension is going to work that VMO.
Is that the same kind of thing for like right here
Yeah, because again, it's gonna,
or down lower?
yeah, but yeah, you're gonna get the referred pain kind of going down. More like with your situation, just having kind of the knee pain kind of just probably along the whole ridge, or is it more inside
No,
versus
it's more inside.
more inside? That's gonna be where that VMO attaches, but you're probably tracking to that. You're tracking outside, but your kneecap is probably angled. So then when it does track, that groove is rubbing more. So getting the kneecap to be more level, then it's going to be smoother as you bend and straighten your knee.
Okay.
Yeah, would have to do other things to kind of see whether it's angled or is it tracking or what it is. But strengthening the VMO is going to be a common exercise for that problem. The other thing with the VMO and the general knee pain, just kind of in the front, is stretching, because your kneecap is engulfed by your quad tendon. So your 4 quad muscles, they get to here and they all merge to a tendon, they engulf the kneecap, and then they attach across your knee onto your tibia. So if your quads are tight and your hip flexors are tight, instead of it gliding over the condyles of your leg bones, it's going to push in and then they're going to rub. So that's bad. And then if you're angled more, then you're really getting one side versus the other, you know, which kind of doubles the problem. But again, that's a flexibility. If you keep your quads flexible, then it's not going to pull in as much. It's going to allow it to glide more fluid-like. So flexibility. I'm a fan of just the standing quad. You know, just I like to do this. Some people like to lay down. You want to, when you're stretching your quad, you don't want to be leaning or doing that. You want to try to really just be straight. Using a towel is handy if you can't quite get, you know, that much of a stretch. Using a towel or doing it lying down would be easier. Migrating into the flexibility thing, I'm a fan of the contract relax stretching. So we want to put the muscle on a stretch and we want to hold it there and kind of allow it to get used to that length. But when we lengthen the muscle, in order for it to be functional, it has to be able to be willing to work at that lengthened state. So with doing the contract relax, you pull it back and you put it on a stretch, and then you're going to actually engage that muscle. You don't have to, you know, be strong and, you know, have all this explosive power. You're just contracting that muscle to remind and say, hey, when I'm at this length, I still want you to work. It's still going to be your job to work, whether my knee is straight, whether it's bent 45 degrees, 90 degrees, whatever. So you get a better stretch, you get better results faster, and you can do it with any muscle. I mean, you just have to put yourself in a stretch and then just cautiously tighten them up and hold for 5 and then relax. Pull back a little bit more, get back to that stretch, give it that 10-15 counts for it to kind of get used to being at that level, and then contract them again for 5 and relax. Real big fan of that type of stretching. Hamstrings are very important. Allison had mentioned a hamstring problem. Was any of you the hamstring in the group or know of who that could be?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We were all falling apart.
You know, and it's so fun because you know when you think about what is the chiropractor doing? He's adjusting your hips and getting yourself back into neutral. You know, so it's, and I think it's so easy for us to get out of whack, and in which, you know, the chiropractors out there, they're when you know it's just an adjustment issue. I mean, it's slick. It's really easy to just go let them get you moving. But on top of that, though, if there's no follow-up with flexibility or the strength training or, you know, the lengthening the muscle and doing that contract relax, if there's none of that, then it's going to be something where every 3 weeks you're going to be going and getting adjusted. I'm a believer that, yeah, there's a time and a place for that, but we shouldn't have to do that. I mean, if we start having problems when we're, you know, 40, we shouldn't have to do that for the next 20 years. You know, that's where the exercises and the stretching comes in. But I think we kind of touched base. I don't have any good answers though, unfortunately, for you, other than don't be such a heel striker. You know, try to get more up on your toes. The other thing you can try is, they're called heel cups.